Exercise Confidence listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. In this episode, I get to sit down with my friend, Hannah Quinn. Hannah shares with us her journey of being an openly gay woman of faith and some of the struggles and triumphs that she has encountered along the way. She talks about the importance of family and why surrounding yourself with the right people can absolutely add or take away from your own confidence journey. Hannah emits so much light, and I think you can even hear it in her voice as we chat in this episode. Currently, Hannah works in the service industry, and she has grabbed a new hobby during this quarantine of gardening. So let's dig in as we listen to this episode with Hannah Quinn on Exercise Confidence. Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable to not, like, I think insecurities are inevitable is what I wanted to say. Like, even the most confident people in the world are going to have days where they still don't feel at the top of their game for whatever reason. You know, we're all human. We have days where our hormones just go out of whack, or we get a pimple because, you know, nature is cruel.
Right.
But as somebody who's always been an extrovert, self-proclaimed at least, so to speak, like as a kid, being like, were you an extrovert even as a child, like in that regard of your life?
Oh, totally. I remember my mom telling me a story of how when I was little, every day after school, I would have like a new friend, and and I would always have someone else that I like befriended. And I definitely think I just have a huge love for people in general. So I just think that always wanting to make sure that they're comfortable comes out as like sometimes being a very like, that's that extroverted side and confident side of saying like, hey, yeah, you right there, want to be my friend, in like the most like what I hope is genuine, you know, which it is. So
it's super evident, like especially knowing you and like obviously having been around you like tons. You are like one of the most genuine people, and that's what I meant when I said like when you came to mind as somebody I wanted to interview. It was like your confidence is like, it's so foundational. I feel like I just feel like you know who you are, and you're like, yeah, I'm Hannah. What's up? I'm here. Let's party. Let's be buddies, you know? Just like you said. And the notion of loving people, do you think you're just somebody that's naturally big-hearted? Was that something that you saw a need for and decided to fill it? Like, where did that kind of come from for you?
I think a huge influence is growing up in church, growing up in a very, I wouldn't say super crazy strict household, but very small community and large community. And my dad was part of a really big family. So was my mom. So always having holidays with tons and tons of people, and seeing the way everyone in the family served one another. You know, whether that was with cooking or making coffee, or, you know, helping out with yard work, or helping bring food over when, you know, a new baby's born. I think that, yeah, that was always kind of intentionally there. And I feel like I learned pretty early on that I always noticed the loner in the room. And I think that was my own, just, my own heart being and noticing it and seeing it, and then wanting to make sure that they didn't feel left out. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question of it being foundational.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And I've had a few talks with people that, in terms of like their confidence, when they talk about something that was, I don't want to say like a running theme, but something that was an indirect confident builder for them, has to do with service, like a lot, right? Different things. And so whether it's like cleaning up when you go hiking, or, you know, starting a brand that gives back its percentages to a like cause that is near and dear to their heart. And like you mentioned right now, like the whole aspect of serving in terms of like family and friends, and that regard of like what you saw growing up. Do you think that any of the ways in which you've kind of incorporated service into your life, which no pun intended, since you've worked in the service industry as long as I've known you.
Forever.
Like, 'cause for you, now that I'm thinking about it, right? Like, you had service brought into your life, right, through family and through church, and you've seen it. But then also now it's what you are choosing to do intentionally for your career. Yeah. And with your farming and the stuff that you do for the community of Whittier. Like, do you think that was brought to you, or that you sought that out?
I would say a little bit of both. Yes, like you said, I've been in the service industry for about 11 or 12 years now. Like, and always, I've worked at a ton of different places. And I think seeing service through my family and even through church and then just through friends, I came to a realization that the dinner table is such a sacred place. And it's such a sacred place to me. So, like, example with working on the farm, when we do pop-ups, the fact that I'm able to help my buddy grow actual food for someone to come by and put on their table and feed their family, it's such a beautiful transaction. And it looks, on the front, it is business oriented, right? Because, that's going to be his job. But as a human aspect, it is so much more than that. And to me, I have always wanted to create special moments and memories for people around the dinner table, because I feel like that is where trust begins. And healing, a lot of healing can happen over dinner. If you think it could, or if you think it can't. And I feel like I've always just chased that for sure, because I've seen it, and and if someone steps into my home, whether that is work or my actual home, I want to make sure that they feel like that hospitality and service from beginning to end.
Do you have a moment in your own life that you feel was really like a standout moment in terms of healing? As you mentioned, like, healing can happen at the dinner table. That was something that was kind of groundbreaking for you personally?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this probably gets into the next topic, but I am an openly gay woman of faith. So,
ow!
Thanks, Jess. I don't think there's one. Oh, there is. I mean, okay, sorry, now I'm like
it's all good.
Story. I think there was quite a few years of trying to feel like I had to prove myself to my family.
Mm-hmm.
And as that healing started to occur and acceptance truly started to occur, I just remember having a really tough conversation with my sister, who then told me, like, I don't have to change. And that's all she said. And it was the most beautiful moment for me. We were, like, in a room at church, and I was just bawling my eyes out. And then you fast forward to, like, having dinner as a family, the next few days. And the comfortability at that dinner table and the way I was able to laugh and truly feel to be myself at dinner table in my own home was a huge sense of healing for me. A huge sense. Just because that dinner tables are almost like a safety point for me. And so through a few different hard conversations, the more those happen, the more ease you have with dinner and with family at dinner. So I wouldn't say it's just one major standout one. I feel like it's a accumulation of a bunch of little ones, to where you look back and you're like, oh, it's been a year and I haven't been stressed having dinner or hanging out with y'all at all. Those little moments, those little things.
Yeah, I get what you mean about the looking back, and there's like this whole jump of time where you're like, oh wow, like that changed, or that like that was so long ago or something, and it doesn't feel like there's any weightiness to it, or not as much anymore. And now, yeah, since you brought it up, because another big reason why I did want to talk to you is because you are an openly gay woman of faith, and I have a handful of amazing people in my life that are openly gay and are of faith. Like my brother is the first one that always comes to mind, things like that. And so, if you don't mind, I would like to talk about that journey and what it was like for you, especially in terms of your confidence overall, your confidence as an individual, as a person who was raised in the church, as a person really carving out their own identity, like we all eventually do at some point in our lives. So if you don't mind, is that okay? Can we hop into that? Okay.
No, totally.
Cool.
Totally.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I would just love for you to pick whatever starting point you want and start sharing from there what that was like for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we could take it all the way back, or we could start in high school or wherever.
I was 3. No, I'm just
I know.
I think because every story is so different, I'd say starting just at the fact that I went to Biola, which for anyone who doesn't know is a private Christian university in La Mirada. It's very small. And I went there kind of out of spite, and wanting to really prove that I was like made to be there. I had immense amounts of culture shock, actually, because, you know, growing up in Whittier, even going to Cal High, which is predominantly Hispanic, I had crazy culture shock for being around so many like white people.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew that was a thing. So, as like maneuvering through that culture there, I started to realize and kind of almost come to terms with the fact that I think that I was gay. And I really, really tried to ignore it for many years, even prior to that. But I tried coming out. I tried coming out to a friend at Biola, and their response was like pretty heartbreaking to me. And then I slowly realized I just started to lose a lot of people, family and friends. And then fast forward to having my first girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. Who you know, and coming out to my family. Coming out to my family was extremely hard and extremely heartbreaking. And I left church for a long time because there were a few moments of not feeling welcomed in a church whatsoever, of people pulling me to the side and saying, the funny thing with church is that everyone feels kind of entitled, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I think that favor is very real, but I think that there's a culture of like, well, I'm the best prophet, or I can pray better than X, Y, and Z, mm-hmm. or like I can heal. Where it's like, well, we're not talking about you, right? You know, this is about Jesus. So, all that to say, there are a few people in churches who pulled me aside, had very, you know, what they thought were comforting words, which were not.
Of course.
Of course, yeah. And so, I kind of honestly just did a big like F you to God, but always had such a still very real like lifeline to him, mm-hmm. that I always felt was I remember explaining to my sister one time that there was a brick wall between us, but we hung on together with our pinkies. And so that's how I felt. And the more I stayed away, obviously there was a few years where I was just like said forget it to everything, and I just, you know, I was hanging around people who weren't great. I was dating someone who wasn't great, and I wasn't close to my family at all, which was extremely heartbreaking. So as I was able to kind of like move away from that and take time, my sister ended up starting a church, and the person I was dating then, we actually started attending. And that itself was extremely healing because I have two family friends named Melinda and George, and they have been there. Melinda has been there for me, which is so funny, through every major life milestone without us realizing and without us talking continually. For some reason, every major milestone I've had, she's been there. So she truly helped me by just, grabbing coffee with me, by sitting with me as I cry my eyes out of like, why am I gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
why is this the thing that I'm dealing with? And slowly, I truly just started to like kind of stop questioning and really praying for God to open my eyes up as to if we're made in his image and if we're bringing heaven on earth, and my heaven on earth feels freaking awesome and confident in a button down instead of a dress. Like, if I feel good with my sides shaved instead of growing my hair out, this has to be true then, kind of. And really, what ended up happening as I kind of like released all that, I was able to help like young adults and other people who were struggling with a friend who just came out, or with a family member who just came out and would say, I don't know what to do. And I was able to say, like, I was able to show them what not to do, Don't ignore their phone calls.
Yeah.
Don't tell them they need to change. Don't tell them, like, what needs to happen, just being there. So, it's been a journey. Like, it still is. I'm still learning a lot. But one thing I realized when people ask, sorry, it's a little bit more of a rant, but
no, it's good. I love it.
One thing that I realized when people try to get very, it's theological, that's the right word,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
About it, and expect anybody who is openly gay of faith to have all the answers from like the literature, and they expect us to think we've gone to like seminary, for the answers. And it's like, I've always been a person where I've said, hey, I feel loved this way. I see God in this way. My openness to him makes me feel full.
Mm-hmm.
And he's never told me I have to change.
Yeah.
Like, and also it's like, if we are all made in his image, how is it in the world that everyone is supposed to look and act the same?
Right.
There's no way.
Exactly.
There's no way. So, it's now, I like to say, a fun journey, but I definitely had about, I don't know, maybe 7 years, or, yeah, I mean 7 years of it not being very fun, and it being very, very, very hard. And, but also, just like side note, I remember being in some bar, smoking a cigarette, like half drunk, and someone came up and we were talking. I was talking to somebody random, and they were like, I hate the church. Like, there's no way that God is real if he's let me go through this trial, and he's let my family treat me this way and kick me out. And as I realized I had more and more of those conversations, it made me realize, oh, the church is the one who is doing this.
Right.
Not Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to come to a very real point of saying, I follow Christ. I do not follow the church. The church is great for many things, absolutely. But for my own sanity and my own protection and my own heart, that's where I started finding church around, the dinner table. Like I said, it's sacred. My community of being able to talk about Christ with openly gay people was around a dinner table with beer and wine and good food,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that kind of. I don't know if that makes any sense. So,
I mean, of course it makes sense. It's your journey. You can't make your journey make sense to somebody who doesn't want to allow it to make sense to them. But I do think it absolutely makes sense. it gives such an insight into the strength that you've acquired through this journey, as you mentioned, and why you choose to, as crazy as it sounds, like boldly dare to be who you are, which is always just a wild concept to me, that to be who you are exactly would is something that is still so radical some days.
Right.
And when you were talking, there were some things that you said that I wrote down little side notes for here that I wanted to throw out, because I did not want to interrupt you, because I loved hearing your story, and I learned a little bit more about it that I didn't know. And so myself, I work for my church. Like, I'm a youth leader. I run our youth group. I do youth group every Wednesday night. I'm all in it. But I have had teens in my youth group come up to me and they're like,
Yeah.
Jasmine, I'm gay. And I'm like, and I love you.
Yeah.
Because I know that in that moment, I'm given an opportunity as somebody who is, as you mentioned, representing Christ's love. And as somebody, when I was asked to take this position at my church, my first and foremost thing was the example that I'm supposed to set, knowing that I am wholly imperfect and will fail daily, but realizing that there was a need there for a love for these teens. And I love them like crazy, like so crazy, man. I love these kids. And then I realized that I think I was meant to be in this specific group for that reason, because I've had teens come and share some crazy things with me that I feel like if somebody that was maybe a little more traditionally trained for this position or with a different outlook, these kids would have been outcast.
Yeah.
Whether it was the choice of the leader or whether that leader would have taken it to someone higher up and outed who that was and what they did or what happened. And I refused. I was like, the world will cast you out enough. The world will push you aside enough. I refuse to be that person, especially in a place where we are supposed to be called to love with open arms. And when Christ was on earth, what do we say all the time? He was with the prostitutes. He was with the tax collectors. He was washing the feet of the least of them, like literally. And why don't we continue to do such? Like, and the same thing, like I saw a friend of mine who, her and I are about the same age. She got pregnant when she wasn't married, and she was on the worship team. And then she wasn't allowed to be on the worship team. Only for 9 months. But then, because she kept the baby, she got to come back after. But then it's like, well, if she wouldn't have kept the baby, you would have never known, and she still would have got to stay. So here's what it all comes down to for me. Everybody sins. Some people's is just more public than others. Got to get over it. And like, I got in an argument with a kid about that in high school, because I went to a Christian high school. And we had
Where'd you go?
I went to Crystal Cathedral.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've heard that one. Nice.
Yeah, no, it was very small. I had a personally wonderful experience. I loved all of the teachers that I had there. They were incredible, but it was small, and some of the people that it was culture shocky for me, because some people are so unknowingly closed-minded because of their upbringing or because of the, I hate to say this, but because of the privilege that they've had in life,
Yes.
and they don't realize the way that they think is maybe not as loving as it could be. And so there was a kid who was saying something about allowing, he was doing a paper for our like Bible class about allowing openly gay people to serve in the church. And I got so mad, and I said, we had a pastor at my church. This was not my church, actually. It was my parents back in like the 80s or something. But I was like, there are people that are serving that are sinning in private, and they get to keep serving, whether they're cheating on their wives or alcoholics or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, why are we going to outcast somebody that in those cases, that's a real hurt that needs addressing? Yeah. And yet you're going to, because somebody wants to love somebody different than the way you think they should love, we're not going to give the opportunity for more of Christ to be poured into this place. Like, it's a big thing for me too. And so I do love seeing people refusing to shy away from it. I love every time my brother is in church with me. I love talking to people who are bold enough to call things out that have just been used, I feel like, against people. And I do think it takes an insane amount of confidence, because I try to put myself in that position and think, could I do that? Like, could I do that? Because I think it's one of the biggest battles that openly that I see time and time again, especially with, as you mentioned, like the church, because that's one of the things there. So taking that, with everything that you've gained on this journey thus far, how has it affected, like, how did you choose to continue to stay like confidently yourself through all of it when so many people were trying to tell you otherwise, pull you in other directions, essentially try to help you change who you are?
Yeah. I think, well, first, you're great for telling those kids I love you, because I don't know if you realize that response within that moment is like the best response, because that's the first response they get, and that's what's going to stay with them. And that already puts them out for like a better journey than most, you know? So, one, that's freaking rad. You're great. But I think I've been thankfully blessed with this crazy amount of joy that
you are such, like, you exude joy, like,
and truthfully, I tried really hard not to harbor on all those crazy times, and I really sought to see beauty and God's grace, like hiking and going to mountains and and hanging out with my mom, you know, and cuddling with our dog. Like and then when it, like, in terms of work, I would be able to serve a table or make a drink, because I did like bartending for a while, or make a drink for someone who had no idea my background, but thought I was so fun to hang around. So
you're so fun to hang around.
Thanks. I think I mean, I definitely have had moments where I've chosen to like harbor on that deep hurt, but for some reason I am very, very thankful that I feel like it never really, what are the words? It never, I guess, infiltrated me. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
There was a group I was hanging around with years ago, and I remember hanging out in this living room and being like, why am I here with these people? In the sense that they weren't positive, they weren't trying to be better,
mm-hmm.
And carried a lot of hatred. And I feel like I just realized, like, I can't fix that, and I know that I want to be better, because I would see and look at couples who were so happy, and like, even when your brother would come to Farrell's, I remember being like, thinking, oh my gosh, he's open and out and he's happy. Like, how do I get there? How do I, like, and you know, gay couples who would get married, I'd be like, wow, how are they that comfortable and secure to make that step? Because realistically, going back to the foundation of faith, I had so much fear. Mm-hmm. Because I was told I cannot love or be loved, or I cannot receive the fullness of God's blessing or the fullness of grace and the fullness of his love because I'm gay. I can only get a little bit. So I just tried, like, just every day was like, no, I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that. And honestly, Liza, my girlfriend now, who we met when we were both 16, we met at youth group, actually.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. She is everything I've always wanted, and her relationship with my family and my relationship with her family is everything I thought I was not going to be able to have because of being gay. Mm-hmm. So with that, I just think I've just been thankful that I've tried to say, like, wow, look where I was and look where I am now, and the love I'm receiving is real, and it is from God, because like, I think heaven on earth is like so much closer than it used to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just say I'm thankful that I like to laugh and make people happy. So I think that's definitely helped in not trying to harbor all the mean thoughts and words.
Choosing, because that's what it is. Like, it's a choice. So choosing to not harbor. And I like the way you put it, not let it infiltrate, right? Because it's, again, it's one of those things where it's inevitable that you're going to be met with negativity of any sort for anything in your life, right? It doesn't just have to be somebody who is navigating an openly gay life of faith, of any faith. It doesn't have to just be that. It can be so many things where people are just going to have their 2 cents and try to tear you down for whatever reason. But truly choosing to not let it infiltrate and then being intentional about making sure you're not harboring it is really powerful. Like, that is something that I think is underestimated, is like our power, is I guess the way to put it, but like our power over these, our response to things, right?
And it's true. I mean, I've had multiple tables not want me to serve them and their family.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
One was at Farrell's and one was at the filling station, Orange. So I've had...
Well, they missed out. You were like always one of my mom's favorites. You still are. Like, she's going to be so happy when she finds out I'm interviewing you.
Little sister.
Oh yeah, everybody loves Hannah Quinn.
And I think I was so hurt in those moments. But I said, you know what? There's kind of like this mind flip I had where I was like, you know, it actually sucks for them because honestly, their kids would have loved me.
Like, yeah, exactly.
You know, I was like, it really hurts a ton, but it's also like, well, it's kind of your loss because honestly, like, I'd be so much fun to serve and I would give you such great service, but it's cool. Like, it's chill. I don't need your $5 tip. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's having to make that choice within literally 2 seconds before you start to harbor on it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a challenge for sure, but it's a good one.
Making the split decision choice, like, that is something that took me a long time to figure out, like, how to do. And I'm still not perfect at it, but I've gotten better, and I know that it may seem hard, especially listeners, for anybody that does really battle with indecisiveness for whatever reason, if it's something maybe from like a childhood trauma, or if it's from the stem of really needing to be a people pleaser, because then you're always basing your decisions on someone else instead of intrinsically like you and what your choice is going to be. Choosing for yourself in those moments is hard because it seems selfish because it's a choice for you. But I think one of the themes I love harping on is like self-care and self-love, and sometimes self-preservation. It's not selfish. Like, it's absolutely necessary at points. And it goes back to the thing you said a bit ago about you were at this point where you were hanging out with these people and you were like, why am I here? You know, and I think who we surround ourselves with is a big deal. How would you say the people you've chosen to surround yourself with in your life have influenced your confidence?
Ooh. I would say, like, my actual just core, besides my family, and I think it's like, we have like 5 friends that, you know, or 5 or 6 friends that really, truly are so close to me. I think in a few ways the way they've influenced me is they've always supported me to be free. And with that freedom has come so much more joy and laughter in my life, and love. And a lot, like, my best friend and her family are all very tight-knit, and I love that. And like with Liza and her parents, I see the way her parents just love each other, and that like that helps influences like the right commitment, right? The true commitment, and because my parents are divorced, and so there's a lot of pain and hurt from my dad on that side, but with my mom, she's influenced me in such a way of just constant, I would say like caregiving or just constant support in the sense of I come up with a new idea every week. Okay.
I have one of those brains. I get that.
Right. Yeah. And I like to absolutely be a part of multiple different things. I can never just choose one. All right. I listened to a podcast with Natalie Portman, and I think it was with Dax Shepard, and he's like, "How do you like stay a part of so many things?" She's like, "Well, why do I have to choose one?"
Yeah.
And I love that because I'm like, that is me. Like, why do I have to choose one? So my mom, and just the way she is always like, yeah, you could totally do that. To every idea has given me confidence to say, oh yeah, my ideas are good.
I love that.
Whether I follow through with them or not, you know?
Yeah.
And then our other friends who some have kids and the others don't, who are just good people. They are trustworthy. They are honest, and they are respectful to like each other and to everyone, you know, because two of our friends that we hang out with are married, and but they're just always hardworking, and I think just like-minded in the sense of like we are here where we want to be, but also how can we serve each other, you know, and I think it's funny because we've always, I mean, when I was younger, I'm only 29, but even just like when I was like 21, 22, my sister would always say like, oh, my friend group is getting so much smaller. And it's so true though, because I'm like, oh, I do love people. I love to make new friends, but my core and how they help me and listen to me, because I'm an external processor. So if I'm working through something, I'm like talking about it out loud, and then I'm like getting to my answer.
Yeah.
And so the way they've supported me, and also the way that they have loved and accepted me through all my changes, and then even with just like the love and support I receive from Liza in every category is just like, how could you not want to be a better person for the people who are being so good to you, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that.
I don't know if that answered the question. Sorry.
I feel like I always have not always, but I feel like I have guests that come on here, and one of my favorite things about these particular types of guests is that I don't really have to pull too much out of them, because they will, like, the first thing that they'll do is they will absolutely answer the question, and then they give an elaboration and sometimes a tangent. Personally, I love that because I can talk that way too, like, absolutely. But also, going back to the whole personality thing, like, by nature, as hard as it is for people to really believe sometimes, like, I really am introverted. Like, I prefer alone time. I really like to unplug. And it takes a lot of my social battery to do things where I'm engaging, right? Because I am more of like I'm type A to a certain extent. So a little bit of that has to do with like my controlling aspect. So I like working alone because it's just me working on my thing. Like, I hate group projects, like things like that. Oh my gosh, they drive me up the wall. But I mentioned it in a different episode where I was like, yeah, I didn't realize how much of an introvert I was until I started doing the podcast. And like the first few guests I had, like, we were both kind of like navigating it together. And so I was like really fielding a lot of questions. And at the end I was like, oh, like that was a marathon. But yeah, but no. So it does. Again, my long-winded answer to your answer is it does answer the question, and my guests always, a lot of them do that, and I'm always like, honestly, whatever you share is so valuable, because I think something that is lacking, in my opinion, in society is quality content being shared in a way that adds value to people's lives, but also people giving that content like the reverence it deserves in ingesting it and really taking it in, because there's so much knowledge. There's a wealth of knowledge out there. Like, you could learn to do so many things, whether it's through YouTube or reading or whatever. Learn how to better yourself by listening to this podcast. Like, you know, and I think in a microwave day and age where we want everything so quick, realizing that there is work to be done after you've ingested the content can be a little like, I don't want to do that. I just want a quick fix. Yeah. But I do think that putting quality content out there is something that it does matter. It does make a difference. It is affecting lives, whether you see it or not. And so, kind of piggybacking off that, not only with the people you surround yourself with, but as somebody who exudes so much joy and confidence, I think that you put out a lot of what you take in. So are you diligent about like what you allow into your life, whether it's the way you speak to yourself or the way you allow people to speak to you, or what kind of like books or movies or music you're listening to or stuff like that?
I think I am now, not before, and it is very recent as to me, because when quarantine hit, I am the opposite of you, where I recharge with people 100%, and I have never allowed myself to sit at home and just be. I was always out and about moving. I always felt like I had to be working on something, right? So when quarantine hit, the first couple of weeks was really hard for me.
Yeah, you poor thing.
It was. My mom and poor Liza were like, "Oh my goodness, we cannot handle this chick. Like, she is like going off the rails." Because I would be like really happy and excited, and like, "Yeah, let's clean, let's do this," and then I would just go completely spiral down and not want to move, because why? There's nothing to do, you know? And so I just didn't know, my body didn't know how to rest, like at home. And through quarantine, thankfully, I was able to like pick up a few projects, right? And start, like Liza and I started woodworking, which is so fun, and gardening with my mom and all these things. And, you know, that helped me realize, oh, this is how I can self-preserve myself. Doing a project where I have to actually use a saw, so it needs all of my attention. My brain, like literally everything needs to be focused on this, or else I'm going to chop my fingers off. I didn't realize it was helping me like have self-care. I know it's true though. Yeah. You know, but I never really knew how to do that. I am very diligent though about what I watch and listen to. I do not like scary movies. I do not mess around with anything of like that, you know, honestly, like demonic side of movies and things.
Same. I don't even mess with it. I don't like scary movies to begin with, and I do not do like any supernatural.
No.
I'm like, I'm not inviting that in.
Yeah. No, I'll actually watch Supernatural, the CBS show, because
that's different. No,
CBS,
I mean like
things that
are like paranormal or whatever.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not into that.
Exorcist,
Because I'm like, the way I am is like, I gotta protect my little mind here. And truthfully, I can get very heated and very quickly, like, if someone messes with someone that's close to me, like, I'm ready to fight, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I always,
I'm a protector.
I can't watch certain things that are just going to make me angry for no reason. I mean, I started watching Peaky Blinders, and then everyone at work the other day was like, dude, what is up with you? And I was like, I'm ready to fight.
I'm going to take somebody down.
Yeah, no, it was like, this guy doesn't want to wear his mask, where is he? You know? Like, but then also, I love, like, self-help podcasts. I love just being able to understand that the brain is a muscle we got to work on. And I am, like, I am the type of person, if I follow you on Instagram and you start posting stuff I don't like, I just unfollow you.
Yeah.
Or if you're someone that makes me feel insecure about myself, whether that's because of, like, maybe the way they look or the lifestyle they have on Instagram, right? Air quotes lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're making me feel not great. So, and that's something I have to work on. But I'm like, I'm not gonna continue that habit of like always looking and checking and comparing myself, because social media is everywhere, and that's literally why I only have Instagram, because it's way too much. And so, I'm a very like, yeah, you're not making me feel good or confident. I'm not gonna follow you. Because why put myself through that torture?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I just started doing that probably, I want to say 2020. And it probably first started, if I'm remembering correctly, I think when quarantine happened, we were told to stay at home. You know, the work I was doing was basically like not happening at all because I work for a city in Parks and Rec. We couldn't do anything recreation wise. You know, we couldn't do anything, you know, and I would be home and, you know, I was finishing my degree, so I still had schoolwork, but I had also a lot more time to just sit on my phone. And I was taking it very seriously. And then when the mask mandate happened, I was always masking. And then I saw people being very nonchalant and carefree. And it was like making my blood boil because I was like, this is so not the time to do that kind of stuff. So I would continue seeing them and following them. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And I was discussing with my boyfriend. And he was like, why don't you just stop following them? And I was like, as if it was like this radical idea. I was like, oh, I should stop following them. You know, and I did. And then that played into everything else where I would see somebody who, with exercise confidence especially, I've become very intentional about keeping it real. I've stopped using filters. I point out days like when I've got acne, I'm like, whatever it is, what it is. I'm a human being, you know?
Yeah.
Because I believe transparency, especially with the message that I have committed myself to sharing, is necessary. Like, I have to be transparent. And when I'm seeing so many people that are trying to mask the same message in a completely different package, that everything is always perfect and #blessed, you know, like for me it was too much, and it was making me really upset because I was like, you're watering down this message that deserves to be so pure, like. And so I did that. I would just start, and every now and again too, I'll just periodically, like if I'm scrolling for too long, I'm like, why am I scrolling? And I'll go to my page and I'll go to who I follow and I'll start looking and I'm like, no, that's not making, like, who the heck are they? Like, why am I even following them? Like, family, friends, and inspiration. That's pretty much where I'm trying to keep it.
And truthfully too, I think I've had these conversations, and honestly, Liza's helped me a lot of not always being on my phone. I mean, I still have problems with it sometimes, especially because you know, you just it's sad how you just so quickly do it. But I remember there was one day I had TikTok and I spent over an hour on TikTok, and I was like, oh no, Hannah Quinn, this is not okay. And I instantly deleted it. And then everyone at work was like, oh, did you see this? Or did you see this? And I was like, no, because I do not need to be carried around like the millions of people and what they post for what I'm doing today and for who I'm trying to interact with, you know? And that's why you know, my mom was asking me the other day, she was like, do you want an Apple Watch? I was like, no. And she's like, why? I was like, because carrying a phone is enough.
Yeah.
I don't need something else to tell me. Like, my watch is analog. I don't need someone else to tell me, like, oh, I just got another text message.
Right.
Like, and that's where gardening has become such a great adventure, because, man, like, there's actual studies shown of, like, when your hands are in dirt, like, the endorphins it creates and the healing it happens, and, like, how it's actually good for your soul and for your health. It's amazing. It's outstanding. And I'm very thankful for quarantine, as unfortunate as COVID is and how serious it is. I'm very thankful at least at the fact that I was able to learn more about myself and learn how to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, and I think giving people, honestly, I just feel like people need to know that they can control their social media. You don't have to follow someone because you worked with them for 3 months 4 years ago.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I finally started like unfollowing people that I'm like, why do I still have them on my time? Like, why?
People from high school, this is how I judge it. If I would run into you, would we say hi? No? I'm not going to follow you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to pretend to be your friend.
Exactly.
So we have to know that we are absolutely allowed to either block whoever we want to, unfollow whoever we want to, and take control of our actual social media. Because for some reason, I don't know how, we all got lost. And I'm saying this because it also happened to me. Like, we all just got lost in this, like, oh, but I'm worried about this count and I'm worried about this likes. And it's like, oh, wait, what the heck? Never mind.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And and listeners, we're just going to say it. Stop following your ex already.
Stop following, exactly. And don't go and search it after.
And don't look for their new partner.
Just let it go. Just let it go.
You just gotta let it go, kids. Okay? Yeah. And that influencer that makes you feel bad about yourself too all the time, just stop following them. Unfollow them. All right. No, I had TikTok for like literally, I want to say like 2-3 weeks maybe. And at first I was like refusing. I was like, I'm not getting it. Same thing. Like, I don't have a Twitter. Just don't. I have Instagram and I have Facebook. And the main reason I even keep Facebook is because I have family in different parts of the world. And I have a family member who works for Facebook. So it's nice. So it's like, well, it does help me connect. And like literally, like, I'll share pictures and I get messages from like my cousins in Iran, like, on them. And it's like, it's an easy way to connect for people that are, you know, I mean, we do have WhatsApp, but it's fun. It's easy. Fun. Yeah. It's easy. It's fun. But also with the whole TikTok thing, like, I had it for 2 weeks and I thought I was so clever because, again, I had another idea. All my thousands of ideas. I made a page and the page name was I Only Have Eyes for You. And all I did was put makeup looks for eyeshadow and eye makeup. And then I was like, oh, nice. But then I was like, this is taking a lot of time and effort, and it's not something I can devote myself to, and I don't have a passion for it. It was punny, but no. It's so toxic. Well, I don't care.
Over quarantine, I made like, Liza helped me make like 2 videos because I love milkweed and I love butterflies. And the whole entire process, your butterfly journey, dude. That was cool. Yeah, thank you. And we were making these videos, and instantly, because like people were like, "Can't wait for more," I felt like I had to, and instantly I was like, "No, I don't want to do this anymore," because I don't want to feel like I have to post now, which kind of sucks because it would be so fun to really like capture it and document all of it for everyone. But I don't want it to become a thing where I feel like it's now another side job when it's not. I want to keep it fun, you know?
Yeah, totally. So, no, I get that. And I think that also can play into anything because there's so many things in life that we start and we love it and we have a passion for it and we enjoy it. And then something robs us of that joy of it, whether it's feeling the need to always like keep it up or produce more or something, and especially in like such a consumer based world that we live in. And then it can make you feel inadequate and it can really start cutting at your confidence because you're thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing it as much as the other person, or oh, my editing isn't good, and like it just becomes this comparison game, and like comparison is the thief of joy. Like it will completely just rob you.
Absolutely. And that is like somewhere I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Ever.
So that's why guard your heart, kids.
That's right. Guard them.
One of the things I do want to ask you is, because you did mention family a lot, would you say like your mom or anyone else in your family has been an example of what confidence is to you that you were able to kind of like look up to and emulate?
Yeah. I mean, in all different ways, my immediate family. Like, my mom, when my parents got divorced, I was 16, and she held down the house like no other, right? Mm-hmm. And then she just was like a rock star. And my sister, Rebecca, is the oldest, and just the amount of confidence she has in herself and who she is, and she's like a strong, badass woman. Like, I love that. She has been a great example of being able to work hard and get what you want, like, always. And then my brother John was in the Marine Corps, so the way he has been able to, like, confidently work through his PTSD and just confidently, like, be him. He's a quirky dude, and he's silly, and he's just, like, he's sillier than I am. Everyone thinks we're the same, and it's so funny because, like, he's, like, 6'3", and he's jacked, right? So
you guys are so different.
Yeah, I think we're so different, but it's funny because he also has, like, a cross hand tattoo like I do, so I just love him. But just for him being, like, this serious Marine guy, but then just quirky and just living out his own truth has been great to watch. And then my brother Andrew, who's just such a genius of a guy and has always remained loyal and vigilant in everything. And just the way he is when you know, my dad was gone and my brother was in Afghanistan, the way he held down the house for us and, like, protected us was just like, oh, he's confident in himself. Like, he has this. And I'm confident that we're safe, like, when he's here, you know? So, like, all of them has just been, it has taught me confidence in all different ways.
Yeah, that's really beautiful when you're able to have so many, especially your immediate family members, be able to, like, exude that for you. I know I'm the same way. I'm, like, super fortunate. My mom, my brother, my sister. I would say probably, like, the least is my dad, but my dad is in a different way because, you know, he's, like, a little more quiet, but exactly the same thing. Like, he's done such a good job of making me confident in the fact that I always feel safe around him, you know? And, like, I always know that I can, like, let my guard down and I don't have to be, like, because I'm somebody that is, like, always braced and ready, like, to have to, like, step in and be a protector. I don't know if it's, like, my build or what, my mindset. Yeah. Dude. Oh, I'm so overprotective. I probably shouldn't have kids. It would be so bad.
And it's funny because my siblings make fun of me because I'm the youngest, but I'm, like, always ready to, like, dude, what? You want to go?
Yeah.
Like, you talking about my brother, bro? Like,
oh, my gosh. I know. Oh, no. Like, for me with I'm the middle, so I don't know where it comes from, but I think it's a little bit of probably seeing my brother be that way for me, and then in turn being that way for my sister, who's the youngest. And my little sister just has, like, literally the purest, sweetest heart of gold, and I think that's why I get, like, extra mad if somebody would ever dare. Are you kidding me? She's the best of. Woo! Just, like, go,
and that's the best part is, like, yeah, like, nothing's ever really happened for me to have to do that, right, but we're so ready. We're on call. Like.
Oh yeah. I think, like, one time, like, something happened where there was, like, a little cat fight between her and her friends in high school, and I was ready to kick doors down for this baby. I'm just confident in my ability to defend, I guess. But
that's so funny.
But I did want to point out those examples, especially for the listeners, because not everybody is so fortunate with the household that they grow up in or the people that are in their immediate surroundings. Personally, I would say we all have somebody that we look up to, whether it's a teacher, a person of authority, even, like, a celebrity or someone that, you know, their confidence inspires us in some ways. Maybe it's a family member. And so for the listeners, I just want to encourage you that whoever it is that really is inspiring you to try to become more confident, hey, reach out. You know, you never know until you try to get in contact with someone and see if they have any advice for you. But until then, you have us here at Exercise Confidence, and We'll wrap it up here with Hannah by posing my favorite last question that I love. And that would be, if you had one piece of advice to give our listeners so that they could exercise confidence in themselves every day, what would it be?
Laugh at yourself. Have fun. Just laugh at, like, we're all in this together. And literally, I know it sounds so cheesy, and you probably read it in memes and on inspo pages, but there is literally nobody like you. And hold on to that and be free with it for sure.
There you have it. Wise words from Hannah Quinn. I like that. I do like that. There's nobody like you, so hold on to that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Hannah, seriously, this was such a great time just getting to chat. I love having you on the show, and thank you so much for sharing your story and for being so candid and just so awesome, because you are.
Thanks, Jazz. This was fun.
All right, Exercise Confidence listeners, that was our episode with Hannah. Gosh, I just appreciate her transparency so much and how honest and open she is. I'm telling you, I truly feel like I was basking in sun as I was listening to her cheerful spirit share her story with us. I hope that you were able to take away from Hannah's that there is power in healing, and that finding a way to boldly and authentically be yourself can be one of the most freeing things that you choose and decide to do for yourself. Tune in next week as I sit down with an old friend of mine, Nick Manzano. Nick shares how, as a man, his biggest confidence influencer was actually a woman. Nick's story, I think, is beautiful and unique to him, but I think that there is a way that everybody will be able to connect with something that he has to share with us. It's a great episode. He is a great personality, and you don't want to miss it. Signing off for today, I am JR Nasari, and I truly hope that you find a way to exercise confidence every day.